Hey, what's up, guys? Happy New Year. I hope each of you had a wonderful break. We are going to pick back up right where we left off. We're going to get back to it. We are in Unit 5, Day 8. And in today's lesson, we're going to be solving problems in different contexts. And we're going to be applying the Pythagorean theorem, angle relationships, and what we learned about finding the volume of three-dimensional figures. All right, so we got a lot to cover. A lot of this, I'm going to start by reviewing what we have learned, and then I'm going to be applying it. All right, and so I'm going to do a problem, you'll do a problem, and so on and so forth till we get to the end of this video. All right, so let's dive in. All right, so by way of review, angle relationships. We talked about three main angle relationships that you need to remember. The first is vertical angles. Vertical angles are angles that are across from each other when you have two intersecting lines, and those we need to know are equal. So vertical angles, when they are across from each other, right? We have two intersecting lines that create vertical angles that are across from each other, and those are equal. Next, we need to know complementary angles. Complementary angles they add up to equal 90 degrees, okay? And so if you remember the way we, just looking at the word complementary, if you put a line down the C, that gives you sort of 90. That's one way you can remember that, all right? And then supplementary angles, they add up to equal 180 degrees, all right? And so one way you can remember that is you put a 1, and then you make that S, you make it an 8, you take that U, you close it up, that gives you a 0, and so there you have 180. All right, so just some little tricks to help you remember those, all right? And so what we're going to be doing is we are going to be applying these relationships, but this time we're going to be using what we know about solving multi-step equations to figure out what the angles equal, all right? And so looking at these first two set of angles, all right, and sorry that this is a little blurry here. You should have a notes page, so you should be able to see that a little bit better, but we have these two angles, all right? First, we need to know what the relationship is between these two. Well, the relationship is that they are vertical, okay? They are across from each other, okay? And so because they are vertical, remember, they are equal. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these two angles and I'm going to set them equal to each other, and then I'm going to solve for the variable. So we have 2x plus 12 equals, that's a negative 4x plus 24, okay? And again, we have these, and we know that they are equal because they are vertical angles. And now, when I get here, now I have to solve for the variable, okay? And so to do that, I'm trying to get the letter, the variable, by itself. So I'm going to move all of the variables on one side, and then I'm going to move the numbers to the other side to isolate that variable, okay? And so to solve an equation, you need to remember that we must do the inverse operation, okay? So I'm going to move the x's all to the left side. I could move it to the right side, but when I taught you this a couple weeks ago, I said to always move it with the x in the front, okay? But you don't have to. You can solve it either way. So I'm going to move this x to the other side. To do that, I have to do the inverse operation. Well, right now, it is a minus 4x or negative 4x. So I'm going to add 4x. That is the inverse operation. Whatever I do to one side, I must do to the other side. Okay, and so my 4x's are going to cancel. That leaves me with 6x plus 12 equals, and then I'm just going to bring down the 24. Okay, now I'm trying to get the x by itself, so I'm going to get rid of this plus 12. So the opposite or the inverse of plus 12 is a minus 12. Minus 12, the 12s are going to cancel because these are 0 pairs. Positive 12 and a negative 12 gives me 0 pairs. That cancels. Now I'm left with 6x equals 24 minus 12 is going to give me 12. Okay. Now to get the x by itself, I got to get rid of this 6. And when I have a 6 in front of a letter, that means multiplication. So the inverse of multiplication is division. I'm going to divide by 6. Whatever I do to one side, I must do to the other side. The 6's are going to cancel, and that leaves me with x equals 12 divided by 6, which is 2. All right? And so there you have it, x equals 2. All right? Now, I want to show you really quickly how you can use the calculator to check that, to make sure that you have found the correct answer. So let's take a look at it. I found that x equals 2. So I'm going to put in, where's the x? Oh, there it is. Okay. All right. So we got x equals 2. All right. And so then I'm going to put in my two angles, which was 2x. We got 2x plus 12 is one of them. All right. Then I'm going to go to the next line, and I'm going to put negative 4x plus 24. And when I do that, those angles should equal the same thing. And as you see, they both equal 16 there. Okay? So that is just one way that you can check to make sure your answer is correct. All right? And I would encourage you to do that here at the end of these type of problems. All right? So now here's what I want you to do. I have shown you how to do the first one. I want you to pause the video, and I want you attempt to solve the second one on your own, and then check your work after you have completed it. All right, so if you did this, you should have set 5x plus 10 equals 50 there. Okay, this time there's no variable on this other side, so all I got to do is to get this variable by itself. So I got to get the x by itself, so I got to get rid of the plus 10. The opposite of plus 10 is minus 10. Whatever I do to one side, I also must do to the other side. The 10s are going to cancel because they are 0 pairs, and that is going to leave me with 5x equals 50 minus 10, and that is going to give me 40. All right, and so now I am going to get the x by itself by doing the inverse operation. So I'm going to divide by 5 because that is 5x, and that's 5 times x. So the inverse of that would be division, divide by 5. Whatever I do to one side, I also must do to the other side. The 5's are going to cancel there, leaving me with x equals 40 divided by 5, and that gives me 8. All right. And so then if I wanted to check and make sure my answer was correct, I'm going to tell the calculator that x equals 8, and then I'm going to put in my expression, right? So my expression here is 5x plus 10. Okay, and I don't have to put the equal sign, so I'm just putting this side of the expression, and that should equal 50. And as you see, it does, so that I know my answer is correct. All right, so that is the first part of this section. Now, we talked about those two were vertical angles. The other types of angles that we talked about were complementary and supplementary. All right, and so if you will remember, right, supplementary angles add up to equal 180, and 180 degrees makes a straight line, okay? And so this first set of angles are supplementary, okay? They are supplementary. Let's go with a different color here. Okay, they are supplementary because they add up to equal 180, right? So and it makes a straight line, all right? So for this first one, this angle plus this angle, I know because they are supplementary, I know that these two angles, when I add them together, it is going to equal 180. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna add them together. So 3 times the sum of x and 1 plus 5x minus 7 equals 180. Okay, so what I'm doing here is I'm, again, adding those two together. and that's going to equal 180. Well, if I look at my other problem, okay, these two angles are complementary, okay? And we know that they are complementary because they add up to equal 90. And I know they add up to equal 90 because of that square, that right triangle. So, all right, so these two, when I add 25 plus x minus 18, that's going to equal 90. So to set this one up, I would do x minus 18, take this angle, plus 25, and that's going to equal 90. All right. And so for these two, I have set both of them up. I want you to pause the video, and I want you to attempt to solve for the x on your own. All right. So pause the video and see if you can solve these two problems. All right. So in this first one, there's several steps here. The first thing that we needed to do is we needed to distribute the 3, okay? So I have this 3 on the outside of parentheses. I got to multiply it by both of the numbers inside of the parentheses. So 3 times x is 3x. 3 times 1 is 3, okay? And then I'm just going to add plus 5x minus 7 equals 180, right? And once I get here, now I have to combine the like terms, okay? I'm combining the like terms. The x's are alike. The plus 3 and the minus 7 are also alike because those are both constants and they don't have a variable. So I'm going to add these two. 3x plus 5x is going to give me 8x. And then 3 plus positive 3 minus 7 is going to give me a negative 4. Okay. And then that equals 180. And so I'm getting the x by itself. So I have to add the 4 to both sides, add the 4 to both sides. That cancels, and now I'm left with 8x equals 184. Okay. And so then I'm going to get the x by itself by dividing by 8. Divide by 8. The 8's cancel, and that leaves me with x equals 184 divided by 8. And that gives me 24. All right. And so x divided by, 184 divided by 8 equals 24. So I can check to see if that is my correct answer by plugging that in. All right. Now let's move on to the next one. Once I get here, all I have to do is to combine my like terms. Negative 18 and then a positive 25. That's going to give me a positive 7. Okay. I'll just bring my x down. So x plus 7 equals 90. All right. Then get the inverse operation. I'm going to subtract the 7, subtract the 7. 7's cancel, leaving me with x equals 90 minus 7, and that is 83. Okay. Again, I can plug both of these in and verify my answers. For the sake of time, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to keep it moving. All right. So, know that was a lot there, but we just applied what we know with angle relationships and solving multi-step equations. All right. Now we are talking about Pythagorean theorem in the next couple problems. If we will remember, Pythagorean theorem is a squared plus b squared equals c squared. All right. And I remember that the legs, those make the right angle. Okay. So the legs are the a and the b. Right. Those are the two sides that make up the a and the b. And then the hypotenuse, it is across from the right angle. All right. And again, the hypotenuse, that is the c. All right. And it is across from the right angle. All right. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take what I know about Pythagorean theorem, and I'm going to solve for these two word problems. All right, actually there's 3 here. All right, so let's look at the first one. To get from point A to point B, you must avoid walking through the pond. All right, so you must walk 34 meters south, going 34 meters south, and then 41 east, okay? And so the picture shows me how I'm walking, all right? It says, to the nearest meter, how many meters would be saved if it was possible to walk through the pine? So if we were going from here straight to here, what would it be? Well, we are looking for our hypotenuse on our triangle, okay? So, and I know this is the hypotenuse. I know this is the C because it is across from the right angle, all right? So that is the C that we are looking for, all right? So Pythagorean theorem, A squared plus B squared equals C squared, okay? A is 34, so it's 34 squared plus B 41 squared equals C squared. I don't know what C is. That's what I'm looking for, all right? So I'm going to go to my calculator. Then I'm going to plug in all right, so it was 34 squared plus 41 squared, all right? And when I do that, that gives me that gives me, what did it give me? 2,837, okay? And it's C, that equals C squared, okay? And to get, now this is C squared, now to get rid of the squared, I have to do the square root. So, and whatever I do to one side, I must do to the other side. So to get C by itself, again, I had to take the square root. And so now I take the square root of the 2,837, and that gives me 53 point, it says round it to the nearest meter, right? So it's just going to be 53. I'm just going to round it to the nearest whole, and that is going to give me 53 is my answer. All right. All right. There you have it. So I want you to pause the video, and I want you to attempt to do the next question. It is exactly like it. So I want you to pause it and see if you can solve the next one on your own. All right, let's get to it. So we have A squared plus B squared equals C squared. The A is the 25 meters. So 25 squared. The B is 50 squared. And we're looking for C. So we got 25 squared plus 50 squared. 25 squared. 25 squared plus 50 squared. All right. That gives me 3,125. Okay. And so to find C, to get C by itself, I have to do the square root because it is C squared. The inverse of C squared is the square root. And when I do that, square root of that gives me, and we'll round it to the nearest whole again, that gives me 55.9, and so we'll round that up to 56. All right, there you have it. All right, in this last one, this time, this was a little different because this time I am given the hypotenuse and I'm looking for the one of the legs, okay? So for this one, it is A squared plus B squared equals C squared. This time, the 20 is the C squared. And then the 18, we'll say that that's the B, or the A, it doesn't really matter, okay? And so I have to figure out what the B square, or what the B equals, all right? So this time, because I already have the hypotenuse, instead of adding, this time I'm going to have to subtract. So I got 20 squared. I'm going to figure out what 20 squared is. All right, so 20 squared. And then I also need to figure out what 18 squared Okay, so we got 300 and 324. So 400, 324 plus b squared. Okay, now to get rid of the 324, I have to subtract 324, 324. That's going to cancel. That leaves me with b squared equals 400 minus 324. So 400 minus 324, and that gives me 76. And now, once I get b squared, if I have b squared, to just get b by itself, I have to do the inverse operation. So I'm going to do the square root, and that is going to give me b equals the square root of 76, which is 8.7. All right. Hey friends, we are almost done. All right, we're almost done. And then in this last section, we are looking at volume. Okay, so the volume is the amount it takes to fill up a three-dimensional figure. So the amount it takes to fill up. All right, the amount that it takes to fill up a three-dimensional figure. All right, and so all we need for this section is we need to remember the formulas. And again, friends, you do not have to remember the formulas on your own. You have this formula sheet in your notebook, and you also, when you're taking the test, the formula sheet will be given to you. All right, so we're just going to write down the formulas that we're going to need. So the formula for the volume of a cone is 1/3 pi r squared times the height. And then the volume of a cylinder is pi r squared times the height. All right. So for the last two problems, all you need to do is you need to figure out which formula you need to use, and then you need to plug the dimensions into the correct formula. Substitute it in. All right. So identify what you have, what's the radius, what's the height, and then plug it in. All right. So James went on a 2-mile run. Once he returned from his run, he was very thirsty and decided to fill a cone shaped. So we got a cone here. Okay, that's important, with water. And let's box that. We boxed keywords. From his water cooler. If the radius, that's important, radius is 2 inches and the height is 4 inches, if he filled the entire cup with water, how much water would fill the cup? All right. So I am dealing with a cone, and I'm talking about filling up a cone. All right. How much water would it take to fill up? If it's talking about filling something up, that is volume. Okay. So the volume of a cone is 1/3 pi r squared times the height. All right. Then I just need to know, okay, what are my radius and then what is my height? Well, my radius, the problem tells me, is 2. And it then tells me that the height is 4. And so, friends, all I have to do is plug that into my calculator, all right, into Desmos. So that's what we're going to do. Radius is 2, height is 4. All right, so let's put in our formula. All right, so the formula for volume equals 1/3 pi r squared times the height, okay? And then r equals, we said r equals 2. The height equals 4. And there we go. We have our answer, right? It is 16.7. And so the volume equals 16.7, and it is inches cubed. All right. All right. And then lastly, a can of paint below is in the form of a cylinder that measures 7 inches tall. Okay, so if it's tall, that's talking about the height. Okay, And then the radius is 3 inches, okay? Find the total volume. So we're looking for the volume of the can. So volume is pi r squared times the height. Okay, what is our radius? Our radius is 3. Our height is 7. All right, and then friends, plug in our formula. Tell Desmos what. So for the cylinder, I got to get rid of the 1/3. Again, the radius was 3. Height is 7. So radius is 3. Height is 7. And so 197.9 inches cubed is the volume. All right, so in this lesson, we have applied angle relationships, Pythagorean theorem, and what we know about volume to real world situations in different contexts. Thanks for watching.